The in-bank hearings on the Codification of Ordinances were finally completed last December 20, 2012, after the team tackled the last issue on the naming of streets. The need to codify the city ordinances from 1948 to 2012 arises as we cope with the present situation and the new technologies. Since the in-bank hearing started, there were 607 ordinances that were codified. Out of those ordinances, 186 were amended, 106 were adopted, 10 for adoption, and 305 number of ordinances were repealed. A total of 2,233 participants had joined the entire codification process. There are many compelling reasons why we need to codify our ordinances. To fulfill a community obligation. It is the duty of every city to maintain its laws in a comprehensive, up-to-date, and understandable form in a location that the average citizen can find and use. To avoid confusion and ensure accurate interpretation, by compiling our basic ordinances and all amendments into one up-to-date document, we eliminate the need to refer to many separate documents. The most current information will be easily accessible. To eliminate hours of frustrating research, a code is a single reliable resource for appointed officials, enabling them to respond accurately to questions and provide certified copies quickly and efficiently. To support enforcement, a code is a practical and efficient tool for our courts, police, and other enforcement officials, enabling them to enforce their laws with confidence and consistency and plan for the future. A code provides a clear view of existing situations and makes it easier to determine the impact of proposed changes and amendments. We work closely with our city councilors, legal counsel, and the technical working group throughout the in-bank hearings that were conducted every Tuesdays and Wednesday that started last June 30, 2011 to produce a single reliable resource that will be a practical and efficient tool for government officials and our citizens. A total of 84 in-bank hearings were conducted. During the process of the codification project, the working team was able to identify some highlights. Agriculture, chaired by Honorable Eduardo D. Leison IV. Rationalization of the cattle dispersal program of the city by imposition of additional measures aimed at ensuring effective diffusion of cattle to legitimate beneficiaries. Provided additional provisions to protect and preserve NIA canals and other irrigation system from destruction by not only prohibiting the dumping of garbage, but also the conduct of some activities in the canal and within its embankment to ensure the uninterrupted supply of irrigation water to farmlands. Provided adequate protection to the coconut industry of the city through the establishment of a biolaboratory of parasitoids for Brontispa longissima to attain ecological balance between such pest and its natural enemies. Animal Welfare Committee, chaired by Honorable Eduardo D. Leison IV. The Sangguniang affirms its commitment against any form of cruelty to animals while ensuring the safety of constituents. It adopted a correct perception of the care and custody of stray animals such that they shall not be consigned to a pound but to a shelter. Barangay and Cultural Affairs, chaired by Honorable Lourdes F. Casabuena. The Sangguniang is able to discover amazing facts on the correct date of the city's charter anniversary. Indeed, it came out as a surprise to know that the official date of General Santos cityhood was not September 5, 1968, wherein the same has been widely known. The date of the President approved HB 17209 and signed into law as Republic Act 5412. Notwithstanding the provision in the law that states, and I quote, "This act shall take effect upon its approval," end quote. The reason is that Article 2 of the Civil Code states that, end quote, "laws shall take effect after 15 days following the completion of their publication, either in the Official Gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation in the Philippines, unless it is otherwise provided. Following the ruling laid down by the Supreme Court in Umali, the Charter of the City of General Santos RA 5412 took effect on July 23, 1969, which is after 15 days following its publication in the official Gazette on July 7, 1969. The Sangguniang has further promoted and advanced the halal development program of the city. It expanded the coverage of the local law from regulation of such activities as transport, handling and storage of halal meat products to processing, preparation, or distribution of halal foods. Child Welfare, chaired by Honorable Neptali P. Natividad. The Sangguniang has expanded the coverage on the prohibition of sale of rubber cement or rugby to minors to include such other similar substances, as volatile vapors are taken in via the nose and trachea and are taken by volatilization. The provisions prohibiting and penalizing minors to buy or sell cigarettes or intoxicating liquor were repealed, being inconsistent with Section 57 of RA 9344 or the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, which mandates that any conduct not considered an offense or not penalized if committed by an adult shall not be considered an offense and shall not be punished if committed by a child. Citation Ticket, chaired by Honorable Elizabeth B. Bagonok. The old mandate for the formulation of rules and regulations and the implementation of the citation ticket ordinance was rationalized to include the following amendments: issuance of commission to qualified officials or employees of the city who are at the front line of enforcement of city ordinances, establishment of qualifications, mental, moral, and physical fitness, qualifying examinations, and continuing training, education for officials and employees tasked to enforce city ordinances. The validity of the commission shall be 1 year from issuance thereof, and renewal every year thereafter, unless sooner revoked. Establishment of data bank for violations of city ordinances. Possible establishment of a division at City Legal Office tasked to litigate violation of city ordinances. Establishment of appropriate trust fund for the proceeds of fines for violation of city ordinances, and provision of privileges to officials and employees tasked to enforce city ordinances. Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, chaired by Honorable Dante S. Vicente. The 5 sea use management zones of the seascape of General Santos City were rationalized and reduced into 2 in accordance with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources DENR, Department of Administrative Order DAO number 2008-26, otherwise known as the Revised Implementing Rules and Regulations of RA 7596 or NEPA's Act of 1992. The exact metes and bounds of the strict protection zone of the city, formerly identified as an offshore reef area about 10 hectares located at Purok Gumamela in Barangay Bawing, were inspected and now properly identified in the text of the ordinance for better reference. Health and Sanitation, chaired by Honorable Marius Orlando A. Oco. The Sangguniang has harmonized the provision of its anti-smoking ordinances to enable the same consistent with RA 9211 or the Tobacco Regulation Act of 2003. Naming or creation of barangay, street or public structure, chaired by Honorable Lourdes F. Casabuena. The Ordinance Number 27, Series of 1986, creating Sitio Radyo Muda as one of the regular barangays of the city was repealed. The city streets were inspected and the basis for its naming verified to do away with the naming of streets in honor of insignificant or obscure things or persons, or prevent duplicity of street names. The exact boundaries of streets were defined to prevent overlapping. Naming the streets to persons that contributed to the development of the city was also introduced. The legal existence of 26 barangays with which basis for its creation were either nowhere to be found or not in accordance with the law, were confirmed, ratified, and shall be considered as such, and shall be governed by the provisions of the Local Government Code of 1991 and such other rules which the law may provide, and recognizing that its corporate existence shall commence from the time of their creation or operation, the defects to their existence notwithstanding. The local laws on naming of streets or public structures were harmonized with the similar applicable rules issued by Philippine Historical Commission of the Philippines. Social Services, chaired by Honorable Naphtali P. Natividad. The benefits previously granted by local laws to the elderly were expanded and its provisions harmonized with RA 9994 or the Expanded Senior Citizens Act of 2003. Traffic and Transportation, chaired by Honorable Remus P. Declaro. The Sangguniang discussed its power under Section 458 of the Local Government Code of 1991 in the grant of tricycle franchise, subject only to the guidelines issued by DOTC on the matter. The concerted efforts of our city councilors paved the way to the realization of the Codification of Ordinances project, and we would like to acknowledge the Honorable Elizabeth B. Bagonok, the chairperson of the Committee on Rules, Committee on Trade, Commerce and Industry, and the Committee on Public Affairs, Consumers Protection and Information, Honorable Eduardo D. Lazon IV, the chairperson of the Committee on Ways and Means, Committee on Food and Agriculture, Committee on Blue Ribbon, Human Rights and Anti-Graft, Honorable Richard L. Atendido, chairperson of the Committee on Appropriation, Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, Honorable Margaret Rose N. Santos, chairperson of the Committee on Education, Honorable Marius Orlando A. Oco, chairperson, Committee on Health and Sanitation, Honorable Dante S. Vicente, chairperson and Committee on Public Order and Safety, Committee on Fisheries, Marine Life and Aquatic Resources, Honorable Vivencio E. Dinopol, chairperson and Committee on Public Works and Infrastructures, Committee on City Land Use, Urban Planning and Development, Honorable Naphtali P. Natividad, chairperson and Committee on Women, Children and Social Services, Honorable Virginia T. Liedo, chairperson of the Committee on Cooperatives, Economic Enterprise and Livelihood, Committee on Tourism, Culture and the Arts, and Committee on Labor, Honorable Remus P. Declaro, chairperson, Committee on Games and Amusement, Committee on Transportation, Communication and Franchises, Honorable Lourdes F. Casubuena, chairperson and Committee on Barangay Affairs and Cultural Communities, and Honorable Mac Alejandre M. Tablazon, chairperson and Committee on Youth Affairs, Sports Development and Physical Fitness, and the Honorable Ronelsi Rivera and Honorable Dominador Lagare III. We would like also to acknowledge the support of our Sangguniang Panglungsod Secretary, Attorney Rosendo A. Roque, our City Legal Officer, and Attorney Marites Taniegra from the City Legal Office. To all employees from the different divisions headed by Ms. Marie Tutor of the Records Division, Mr. Reynaldo Tesoro of the Admin Division, Mrs. Lolita Pedro of the Journal and Minutes Division, and Mrs. Rosalinda Mondido of the Legislative Division, and the Assistant SP Secretary, Mrs. Virginia Dime. The expertise of the Technical Working Group, our local Legislative Staff Officer, Mr. George C. Tapel, and Ms. Maria Ludelia Morales Gindap, with the help of Mr. June Bueno, Ms. Tess Shiocon, and Ms. Mary Joyce Kua. To Records Division Staff, Mr. Michael A. Saulon. Two job order personnel, namely Ms. Regina C. Datulaita and Ms. Hannah Coladot, and about 22 on-the-job training student volunteers coming from ACA Sargent Foundation Incorporated, Holy Trinity College, and Ramon Magsaysay Memorial Colleges joined the team and worked hand in hand for the realization of the said project. With codified ordinances, we can afford to have a comprehensive and up-to-date code that will provide a solid legislative framework for both local officials and our constituents. Our completed code will be a useful resource for everyone in our community. It will contain all of our administrative and regulatory laws of a general and permanent nature, modernized in accordance with statute as well as with actual conditions and practices of our local government. It will be published in an easy-to-use, expandable format designed to accommodate future legislation. As what our City Vice Mayor Charlene Bañez Nogales always emphasize and quote, as city officials, the decisions we make affect the quality of life of the citizens we serve, end quote. And with the benefits of codification, which will provide easy access to accurate, up-to-date city information, it will also gain control of city information and save countless hours of searches. Codification will also help our courts, police, and officials enforce laws with confidence and consistency. Surely, it will protect our community with costly legal actions, thus fulfill a community obligation. Now that the project is on its second phase, which is the adoption of the minutes of the in-bank hearings, we are looking forward that the aforementioned draft passes the third and final reading in the plenary session. By then, the City of General Santos will come to behold, for the very first time ever, a duly enacted General Santos City Code of Ordinances. With its enactment into local law, the significant milestone of legislation will become the 16th Sangguniang Panglungsod's main legacy to the city's history and development.